TG Geeks, episode 159, March 5th, 2018. Help, help, I'm lost in the margins. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the two gay geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre. You name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from, did winter come back yet again?
It's still here.
It keeps teasing. Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, I just want it to be springish again. Anyway, we have a really interesting chat today with a couple of independent creators, and we're just going to launch right into it. And this time on the show, we have a real treat for you. We have the co-writer and illustrator of a new graphic novel called The Margins. We have Paul Montgomery, who's a co-writer, and illustrator Amanda Donahue. Welcome to the show, Paul and Amanda.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, trust me, it's our pleasure.
It is our pleasure. So let's ask this question to start off with, and whoever wants to go first. Let's start with Amanda. How did you get into the quote-unquote comics business or illustrating?
What really turned you on to drawing?
Yeah, there we go.
How do you get? I mean, obviously you must.
I wish I could draw. So
yeah. Oh, I can't. No, I mean.
What was the first crayon you ever picked up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of yeah.
Blue.
And was it the small box or was it that big 64 box? And which shade of blue? No. But no, seriously. What was it about drawing that kind of drew you to it? Oh boy, that was a funny I just made there.
Let's see. I think going way back to the very beginning, I actually was kind of doing illustrations and comics first. I remember doing little books that kind of corresponded to a holiday. So I would do like a Halloween book that was like the Dracula and his bride, or like something for Easter. And then for a little while, I thought I'd be a doctor. And then I realized how long you had to go to school for that. So not doing that. And then I just kind of stuck with art for a long time. Really enjoyed doing that. And when I was in high school and you have to like figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life, I was watching a behind the scenes on, I think, like Lilo and Stitch, and just seeing the animators work in paper, and I thought that was amazing.
I feel like I feel like I just had a knife plunged into my chest when you said high school.
Yeah, but Lilo and Stitch, we
love that movie.
We're one of the few people
gorgeous.
among our circle of friends that likes that movie. Most of our Disney friends say, "Oh, I don't like that."
Yeah,
movie.
but keep in mind, Keith and I we're in our mid-50s, so I mean, to us, Lilo and Stitch just came out 2 years ago, as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
You know, so when you say that, it's like I feel so freaking old all of a sudden.
I'm sorry. But yeah, so I went to school for animation, but definitely comics, I've always enjoyed them. I've always leaned more towards manga instead of American comics most of the time. And so when I first got in contact with David, it was actually because I had listened to his radio drama podcast, Wormwood, a serialized mystery, and it just really inspired me to do character designs for that, or aka fan art, essentially.
Oh, cool.
And I posted that on the website, just wanting to let him know like it was important to me, and he saw it in, I guess, some of my other work, and asked if I'd be interested in illustrating this new graphic novel he was working with Paul. And this is my first time ever doing a long form, like, professional comic work, and it has been, I've learned so much from doing it. It's been amazing.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, so this is our first comic. Like, this is our first. We met through this. We met through Dave, actually, And so this is actually really fun for me to get to hear the history of how you
Yes.
got into this, Amanda. But also, you know, Wormwood was sort of the nexus of this. And this was a few years ago. I wrote some episodes of that radio drama, and then later on, Dave would show me this. So yes, technically it's fan art, but I would say very high caliber fan art.
Oh, thank you.
And I was like, man, she really gets the characters, because we had seen visuals of those characters before, but it's a radio drama, so it's mostly, you know, theater of the mind, that kind of thing. And she had really captured the nuance of those characters, and it's sort of like a Lovecraftian kind of Twin Peaks show.
Oh, nice.
That we did. It's a lot of
look
it's
that
still
up.
out there on iTunes. And Dave has also written some comics based on that, and worked with various other artists on different Wormwood adjacent projects. But I really liked what Amanda was doing. I was like, we need to keep her name in the Rolodex, and make sure, because we're going to come up with something, because we had been looking for something to do together collaboratively, especially in comics. And so then when the margins came up, Dave was like, hey, remember those? And I was like, yes, definitely reach out to her and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's amazing how we had a couple of people that have said that they've done some fan art type of thing, whether it was writing or, you know, comics or other things that actually turned into something real. So for everybody out there, you know, don't give up on your passion. If you really have a passion for it, you know, don't shove it in somebody's face, but, you know,
But keep pushing. I mean, keep
pushing
at
it,
it.
keep doing it.
Yeah,
you never really know.
You never know
when-
what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great, Amanda.
Especially today
Thank you.
with the advent of independent creation, you know, self-published works or smaller publishing houses that are willing to take risks. I mean, it's like fertile ground now for people to want to actually kind of pursue that. So, Paul, so let's talk to you just for a second. Writing,
Sure.
how did that come about for you? I mean,
Yeah, what is your background?
and what was the very first thing that you wrote that you never want to share to anybody ever again?
Oh gosh. So my story starts like very similar to Amanda's, I think, and I wanted to be a cartoonist when I was a kid. When I figured out that was a job that you could do, when I figured out that those just didn't like get printed out or something, or like an algorithm made comics. When I found out that's like, I was a big fan of Bruce Blitz. He used to do cartooning on TV. He used to be on like public access and stuff like that, and doing caricature and stuff. And so I created my own superheroes. And I would also do little, really what I did was short stories that were accompanied by like more like pinup art. I'm not saying cheesecake pinup art, but I'm saying like pinup style, like just like characters in an action pose.
Right.
So I never got into sort of like doing page layouts and like real sequential storytelling, but I love characters. And so some of my favorite early comics were actually like the, you know, like those hot move books for Marvel where it's like just the character, the official handbook of the Marvel universe, where it would just be the character in profile, and then it would say like all their stats and like their origin story and everything.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of those I got into was when they did the Archie brand Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics. I would pick those up at the farmers market, and they had all the different turtles and mutants and ninja characters and their profiles, and you know, I would draw them in action poses and copy covers and things like that. So I guess I always really loved colorful characters and world building and things like that. And I studied art for a while and even into high school, but then sort of like high school and into college, I sort of switched over into writing, and like writing my own like fantasy short stories. And then I went into college I originally went in for film, and then I switched over very quickly to screenwriting and playwriting. I actually have a bachelor's of science degree in screenwriting and playwriting because I went to an engineering school. I went to Drexel University in Philly, and that's what they offered. They didn't have a BA in screenwriting. They had a BS in screenwriting, which I think is like one of the funniest majors you have.
Okay, no comment there about
my screenwriting is BS,
BS,
or I have a BS.
That's just like that's one of the funny little like trivia bits. Like if I was a popsicle, that would be on my popsicle stick. Would be that I have a BS in screenwriting and playwriting. So that got me into dramatic writing, and I really got into writing dialogue, and that lent itself towards comics. And comics, you can do any genre, you can do kind of any kind of story, you can do really meaningful things, you can do colorful, actiony things, and I was drawn to the very dedicated small community of comic book creators, and I got into comics journalism after school because I didn't want to move to LA. I studied screenwriting, but I realized I have no interest in moving out to the West Coast. It's just like too hot. So it's like, no thanks. So I ended up going the comics journalism route, and I've done that for about 10 years. And this is my first comic, and had a lot of fun, working on it with Dave, and then finding Amanda, and we wrote part of it before knowing Amanda was going to be drawing it. And then when Amanda signed on, we started to finish the script, and she'd already turned some pages in. And those pages really informed what we wrote after that point. Like, it was like, oh, wow, like, she has all these strengths in these different areas, and it probably drove her nuts. But like, I gave her like finally I was like, you could do a 12-panel grid, and so I threw a 12-panel grid at her and it's all faces, and because she's so good at expression. And anyways, I've been rambling on and on, but
that's okay.
Well, that's fine.
So you have mentioned Dave a couple of times. So he's the co-writer. Dave
Acampo, yeah.
Dave Acampo. There we go. Just for everybody else that doesn't know.
Right.
Yeah, Dave Acampo, you might know him from his comic Lost Angels. He's also done some Sparrow and Crow comics, which were the spin-off from Wormwood. Those are the main characters from that. And so he did some stuff there. He also was part of the DC Comics Writers Workshop. He was one of the creators brought in, and they basically did sort of an apprenticeship with Scott Snyder. So he got his first DC comic out a little while ago. He did a short about Dr. Fate, and he's one of my favorite writers.
Got my attention on that one.
It's real fun. It's a real fun short story he did, and there's a lot of cool stuff in that writers showcase book for. I guess it's the 2017 Writers Workshop for DC. It's the second one that they put out. Yeah. So he's awesome. He's actually out at Emerald City Comic Con right now as of this recording, showing previews of the margins to people out there.
Oh, cool.
Far out.
That's great. Speaking of interesting, we have a birthday segment that we do in our show, and Will Eisner's birthday is this week. So it's interesting that you should mention apprentice programs and DC and all of that in the same sentence.
Really?
Because anyway.
So I got a question.
Aside there.
I got a question, Paul. Now,
sure.
I'm always endlessly fascinated with the creative process when it comes to writing a story. So now you said that you were co-writing margins with Dave. So describe to anybody who is not familiar with that kind of a writing process. I mean, how do you co-write a story of this nature? I mean, what kind of dialogue is going on between you and David? Do you share chapters? Does he, do you just shoot ideas back and forth? How does that all start, and how does that evolve into the finished written product?
Well, we got together one night, and we each sliced a little cut on our palms, and we touched our hands together.
And
nice. So we have merged minds. We share dreams. It's been very uncomfortable. Now, Dave came up with the central conceit of the margins, which is this idea. He wanted to tell us, like, he always liked those fantasy stories where the fantasy creation, the fantasy world that a person reads, like sort of like Never Ending Story, where like you can go into and out of a fantasy world from the real world. And so that was sort of the germ of it. And then germ is actually a pretty good word for it, because the story has become sort of about the virus of creativity, how you can be inspired by someone's story and add to it. And that's sort of collective consciousness of artists. I think there's been some very trippy granola ideas throughout the years of there is some kind of cloud up there of a shared consciousness between artists, and people tap into that same place. And so that's a little bit of what we see in the margins of this fantasy world of Alad, that the characters go into and out of. And it turns out that, and this isn't necessarily like our treatise, our belief on how creativity works, but the main characters, the protagonist and the antagonist in this story, are both creators in a way. One is a writer, one is an artist drawing a story, and they are not contemporaries in that one started off earlier, back in the 1920s and 30s, and another one is in the modern day, but they share a connection to this fantasy realm. And so we had just sort of bounced these ideas back and forth. Dave and I did a podcast called Fuzzy Typewriter, where we talked about, our favorite movies and comics and things like that. And we would get together every few weeks and do that throughout the years with various runs of the show. And afterwards, we would just get to talking about, hey, I had this sort of idea. Like, I wanted to do this story. And I don't know if it's like a short story or if it's a comic, or Dave has also done short films. So, he would be thinking in that direction sometimes. And then we would add to it. And one day, Dave said, I'm going to go to, I don't know if it was Emerald City or if he was going to, it might have been San Diego. I forget where he actually pitched this, but he had a bunch of pitches, different stories that he took to the conventions that year. And he was going to talk to a bunch of different publishers, being the outgoing extrovert that he is. He was going to go out and say, like, hey, I've got this idea. Do you think we could, work together? And he said, I'm going to take, we didn't have a name for it yet. I'm going to take our idea and, in addition to some ideas that he'd worked on his own. And he said, and if they have an interest in it, we should work on this one together. And so Fanbase Press, our publisher, heard his pitch and really liked the idea. And so he came back and he said, I think we got a bite on this one. So we talked to them about it, and they said, yeah, so let's work up a treatment. Let's add a little bit to it. Treatment being, sort of like a Wikipedia entry about your story, kind of. If you go to one of those Wikipedia pages for, say, a Marvel movie, and it's one of the longer ones, that's kind of a treatment. It tells the synopsis of the story. So we went and we did that, worked on it together, and then we started writing the comic. And now to get to the answer to your actual question, we would do really long Skype calls. Like, we'd be on for 3-4 hours sometimes, just telling the story to each other. And I found this very helpful as someone who has tried to write on his own for many years. I think it's really helpful when you have a co-writer. I mean, it's common sense, right? Like, two heads are better than one. But it really is true that if you have someone else to bounce ideas off of, you can be more decisive. And I think a lot of the creative process and a lot of writing is just making choices. You get to a fork in the road of your narrative, and you say, I could either go this way or this way. And a lot of people can be really indecisive because maybe they have a bunch of different ideas. But if you have a collaborator and it's someone you care about and respect, you want them to not think you're an idiot. So you make decisions on the spot.
Right.
And you say, so I think we get to this point and he turns left, or he goes up the ladder. Where if you were just working on it on your own, you might labor over that for weeks or months or years on a project.
Right.
But if you have a collaborator, they can be like, yeah. So what does he do? And they'll ask the questions that you don't necessarily think about. So it's like having that angel on your shoulder, basically helping you through the process. And we would just pick what scenes were most attractive to either of us, and we would go off and work on those scenes. And it wouldn't be in chronological order at all. It would just be what are you really excited about right now? What is What is most concrete in your mind right now? Go off and do that. Send it to the other person. They might tweak it. They might leave it entirely alone. Like, nope, you got it. And then we'll move on to the next thing. And then you have to figure out all the connective tissue. Okay, we have this big plot sequence, this big set piece. Now we need the 2 pages where, we set that up. So, okay, I have a good feeling about that. I'll go off and do that. Send it back and forth. And so that's been our process. But I guess it's different for everybody.
Right.
Fantastic. There's something really meta about all of that, where you were talking about how the creative forces kind of can come together and affect one another. So, like I said, there's something really meta about it, which now sort of takes me back to Amanda, and that is, okay, so now you're getting all these pages of story.
Mhm.
What kind of challenges did you have to deal with in terms of actually I'm trying to think. I have no idea how I would visualize something like that. I really don't. As we've heard the term theater of the mind kind of batted around a little bit earlier, but everybody's theater of the mind is a little bit different. While one person may just, you think of a flea circus, one person's imagination is just this little tiny boxes, and me, I'm imagining, 12 foot tall fleas. So everybody's got a different source of imagination and creativity in that. So what kind of challenges did you have to face in terms of realizing visually what Paul and David were writing?
So when they first gave me, I think I got the treatment first, or like an outline, going over the basic story points, and then also character bios. And I approached it first by, I wanted to give the characters faces, because then that's one, thing to tick off the list of like the cinema of the mind, like what do they look like, which is going to help me then like place them in scenes, give them expressions. And so that was what I first tackled, was doing a lot of character designs for the main characters. And then I started putting together essentially mood boards on Pinterest about, aspects of the story. Like it takes place in Portland, so I try to like do some research on that, watch a lot of Portlandia, get a feel for that. And
I didn't know that. That's really funny.
I did. There's a few little nods in the book, if anyone could find them, to a couple of characters from there. Try not to make it too obvious. So from there, I do, when I'm reading the script, I am kind of seeing it as a movie in my head. I think that goes back to I work in animation, and I've done a bit of storyboarding, and so that's kind of how I approached it as well, was thinking of it in terms of storyboarding. The storyboarding comics aren't, they aren't exactly the same, but I feel like they're kind of cousins. Like, you're working with panels, but the pacing can be different.
Right.
So I went from there, from the character designs, and then I started, just as I'm reading, I'm just scribbling in the margins of the script that I printed out, trying to get down like the idea as quickly as possible before I lose it. And so those scribbles are terribly messy, but it's the raw idea, it's the character and the situation. And from there, I can then take it into a slightly cleaner series of thumbnails. Because you want to get, like, I'm going page by page, I want to make sure that it works as a composition as a whole before I go in and try like nailing down the details of it.
Yeah. As long as you don't get stuck in the margins.
Right.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, please continue.
And so then, in addition to like making sure the page as a whole works as a composition, if it's part of a long sequence, especially during like really like climatic scenes, I have to make sure that like the pages kind of all seem to flow together.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of learning on my feet, because as I said, I've never done this before, as professionally or like even on my own time. Like I've done, short little comics before, but nothing as long form as this. So it was very challenging, but also really exciting to, take it from the very raw, the very scribbly bits on the side of the paper to, eventually a full page telling the story in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer the question? I'm not sure.
No, you did.
Yeah.
You did
So-
answer it. And
Okay.
no, go ahead. You had.
Let me ask this question, and it's really kind of a question for both of you, and it's something that we normally ask of writers that write books, etc. When you're
Mhm.
doing the characters and drawing the characters, do you kind of inhabit that character? Does the character speak to you through the dialogue? Does it, I mean, how is that kind of I know it's kind of a crazy thing to say, but one of our favorite writers, she says that the characters speak to her and she's sometimes just taking dictation. So as far as the drawing of them, does their dialogue and their, do you become that character to be able to draw them?
Or does the character say, no, you need to make my hair that way?
Yeah, or something to that effect.
Yeah. I think they do for me, especially when you're, just the kind of the technical things, like trying to get their expressions down. I'm usually staring at myself in a mirror trying to get that, but I do find myself, trying to like inhabit the character to get a feeling for like what their mood is, their pose, and it just kind of helps me to draw them. And especially for Charlie, our protagonist, I think I ended up connecting the most with her because she's the artist in the story as well. And we both share, I put a lot of myself, I think, into her, a bit of the self-consciousness of like, if she doesn't think she's always like her stuff is good enough. She's very unsure if she wants to take this job. And so if my close relatives were to look at her in the book and then, they would see a lot of me in there, the hunched over shoulders working away at the table. Yeah, so you definitely put a little bit of yourself in each of the characters, I think, as you're drawing them.
Cool. So for you, Paul, do the characters speak to you, or?
Yeah. So we haven't talked about too much about Kent. Simon Gardner Kent is this pulp writer. He's kind of a hack from the 20s and 30s, and he was the guy who wrote about a lot. Years later, in 2017, 2018, Charlie is drawing a lot, not knowing that it's based on this manuscript that this old racist white guy wrote back in the 40s, or 30s, excuse me. Kent is a really interesting character to me because he's the antagonist, but you will find that he is the one who does a lot of the narration. So when you see caption boxes in sort of a courier font, like an old typewriter font, we made this choice that Charlie is very introverted, but we felt, and Amanda alludes to this a little bit, that Charlie would feel that it was a bit assuming if she were to narrate her own story. She would feel like that was, I don't know, she was being a bit too presumptuous, even though it's her story.
Right.
But Kent is this old guy who is so self-involved, and there. After the election, a lot of the writing changed. A lot.
Indeed.
I got a little bit more inspiration for that character and a little bit more insight into that guy, I will say. And
we'll leave it there.
So Kent is very. He speaks in purple prose, which is H.P. Lovecraft. Kent would feel that he was a contemporary of H.P., that they were peers of H.P. Lovecraft.
I was going to say, it sounds, just from what you've talked about, and then him coming in at the end of Lovecraft's life, and they were contemporaries, so it sounded kind of like a continuation of the Lovecraftian world, shall we say?
Yeah, he actually Simon Gardner Kent sort of falls off the map of the real world in 1937, which is, it's not a coincidence that that's also the year that H.P. Lovecraft died.
Right.
And we think of, I think what really got me into the character of Kent, just writing this villain who I very much would not like in real life, was he's a guy who would have written he would have been tweeting a lot to H.P. Lovecraft. He would have written a lot of letters to the editor, and not heard anything back. But he would say, "We are friends." He would say he is very much friends with Lovecraft. And there are some other parallels to those to that real life person as we get into the story. But I'll leave that as just sort of a tease. But So with Kent's voice, actually, I got to sort of indulge myself in my worst purple prose. And there was a balancing act with that, where I'm like reading some of the narration, like a year later, I look back at the letters now that they're on the page, and I'm like, I don't know if that's the best prose, but like it's kind of not supposed to be, because this guy's a hack. Like this guy is very into himself and his own words, and as you've experienced, I can be a bit voluminous with my own speech, with my own talking, but so I got to sort of indulge that. So that's been a weird part of the experience, is recognizing the things in yourself that you might be critical of, and then also using them to your advantage in writing a character that is flawed.
That's very therapeutic, it sounds.
Yeah, it is, and it changed my view of the character over time. Like, how much should we punish this villain by the end of the story? How much redemption do they have? How much insight do they actually? How right are they about certain things? And that changed, like, sort of back and forth a little bit over the course of writing it, and so that was very interesting.
It's fascinating.
And then because you guys had a different ending, I remember it. Yeah. From what we ended up with.
And actually, I think even now, with the way that we end Kent's story, for now at least, in this book, I think we even in ourselves have different viewpoints on. I don't want to say too much, but I just,
yeah,
we have different viewpoints on if it's comeuppance or if it's whatever. So
yeah.
Maybe we'll let readers decide.
Watch out, Amanda! Here come the rewrites.
Yeah. No kidding.
Oh, she's gone through that already.
No, Paul, you said something during this answer that caught my attention, and I'm wondering about something here. I want to expound on this a little bit. So at any point, so let me first ask this. Yeah. Amanda, how were you sending over the artwork to Paul and David? How are they seeing it? Were you like just scanning it and sending it over to them in bits as they were
she did
writing?
the blood thing on her palm too.
Yes.
Oh,
so
it was all psychic.
Oh.
It's all a hive mind.
Oh, so that kind of goes back to the slitting your wrists and doing the Vulcan mind meld and all of that.
I don't know. I've got this vision of you guys all
Don't-
standing
I don't-
around
I
a
don't-
circle chanting in Latin now.
So moted
Do not-
be.
Do not try this at home.
No.
No. Professionals only.
No, but I guess what
Even
I'm
then.
what I'm wondering is at any point, like when Amanda would start sharing some of the artwork that she had written, some of the, shall we say, quote unquote finished artwork. Did you find that helped to inform the story, maybe even alter its direction or give you guys new ideas as to, wow, now that I see this, I'm now conceptually seeing this other thing that we can do or this new direction we can go to?
Essentially, we wrote like the first half before, and we'd outlined the entire thing, I should say. We outlined the entire story, but that outline got more and more vague towards the end. Like we had a very good sense of the first act, and then it got more and more and like even in my mind, I'm like, we'll fix that later. So we had written sort of the first half when Amanda started drawing, and I should say geographically we're all over the map. So Amanda, you're in LA.
Yep.
David was originally from I don't even, when we started, he was just moved because this goes back a few years. Dave was coming from LA, moved up to Portland, Oregon, which informed the setting of the story. And then I live in Philly. When we started, I hadn't met either of them. I still haven't met Amanda in person.
No.
Have you met Dave in person?
We have, yeah.
Okay. And then I had known Dave 10 years, and we'd only known each other online. We'd collaborated several times. We co-wrote a couple of things before this. But we first met 2 years ago in New York, and that was our first chance for me to give him a big bear hug for knowing this guy for so long and listening to me yammer for so long. But yeah, I live in Philly, so we have this like triangle that's part of this pentagram we're talking about with the palms and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's part of the hive mind. But we've used Dropbox, where basically, I mean, in the beginning it was like just emails. It would just email attachments of, hey, does this character turnaround look right for Charlie or for her girlfriend Rita or Kent? Does Kent look like scary enough? Does he? Should he, be a little bit more like? She had clothing options. It was amazing, and so that was in my head. But then, as we got into seeing thumbnails, and I call them thumbnails just because that's the tradition, right? But I wouldn't consider Amanda's thumbnails to be like I would consider them roughs, and then what she considers roughs, I would consider finished pages for other people, and then she has a step beyond that, which is what she actually considers the finished pages.
Yeah.
So we had a very good sense of the setting and of those characters, and even how they emote, and Amanda's storytelling ability. And this is where Amanda's background as an animator really came in. Like, wow, we can do some real action sequences. We can do some crazy stuff. We can go to real world places because she is willing to go above and beyond on backgrounds and setting and stuff. I went back and looked. We have a scene early on where Charlie and Rita are at a record store, and I was like, how much? Because I knew Dave wrote that page, and I was like, how much of that of that did he actually block out in the script? And it's not as much as I thought. It's most of it's Amanda. This is not me throwing Dave under the bus, because there are examples of my pages where I'm just like, hey, can you do this? And like, it's, she puts a lot of thought into the blocking of a sequence, where the characters are, what they're doing. There's a larger meta story of what the character's going through, and then there's just incidental stuff of Charlie inking a page, and so she's able to go through the steps and of what she would do, dabbing her pen in the inkwell or whatever, or putting her headphones on, stuff like that. That is not necessarily in the script. We wanted to give her a little bit more freedom. We didn't want to like manage her. We just wanted to give her room to do that stuff. But then as she was turning in pages, I was like, hey, Amanda can do a 12-page grid of all faces. And she didn't complain about it at the time, but she probably has the hole already dug in her backyard where I'm going to go.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. She's a very sweet person, and I think we took advantage of her willingness to go just and do backflips and stuff through storytelling. It really is super impressive for her first comic work. So
it's great.
Anything for the story.
Yeah, I was impressed with the artwork.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, Barbara sent over just a couple of pages.
Yeah, and
it's fascinating.
The artwork is fantastic. So I got one.
Thank you.
We're beginning to come down a bit to the wire, but I want to throw this out to you, Amanda. I was fascinated with and I have to phrase this carefully because I do not want to spoil any of this. Okay. Now, what we got from Barbara, I'm assuming we would consider to be finished. So yes, I noticed that some of it is, for lack of a better term, black and white. Other parts of it, color. I'm going to guess. Okay, I'm guessing that was that's a deliberate story narrative effect, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Sort of the blending of worlds, shall we say?
Yeah.
Just real quick, just because I'm not sure which pages. I think I know which pages you're talking about, but were those pages lettered?
Keith has got it up right now. He's looking at it.
Yeah, there's looks like at the very beginning. There's a couple of panels that are just typed script. It says, though eager to crest the next rise, and then there's those couple of panels, and then the last panel in that series has dialogue in it, and then the next page is Portland, and they're on the bicycles, and then it goes. It looks like they're in a farmer's market of sorts.
Yep.
And so those are the pages she sent to us.
Just to confirm, those are finished pages. They are not sequential.
Right.
They're not consecutive pages, I should say. So the one with the prose on it, that's Kent's writing of his pulp stuff, and then later on, those are Rita and Charlie at a farmer's market, and yeah, those are finished. So yeah, there is a mix of what we're calling a wash and then full color.
Yeah. And it
And
looks
the,
like it looks like at the end of the one, the Kent's write his prose as the drawing is very how do I want to say rudimentary, and then it transitions to something a little more spectacular, and then when you get into Portland and et cetera, it's just really super. I'm fascinated. I can't wait to see it now.
I'm too.
First off,
go ahead.
Rudimentary. How dare you?
No, well, no. I mean,
How dare that is perfect. No,
it's.
purposeful.
I didn't know what word to use, but it looks.
It's
more,
stylistically different.
It's very.
Yeah.
It's very different.
If I'm thinking of the right one, which I'm pretty sure it was the manuscript, when it's someone is envisioning it. And so the idea is that it starts out very finished, but then it's kind of devolving into its like base form of just rough sketches.
Ah,
so
yeah.
it's kind of going backwards.
Yeah, those kind of. I think that's a good terminology of rough sketches. Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm. So
I can't wait to see.
I can't wait to see
the finished product.
I can't wait to see it. So I just have So this is the last thing. Charlie.
Yes.
She's she okay, for lack of a better term, she's lesbian. Yes.
She is. Okay.
That was
she just has a girlfriend.
She just has a girlfriend. Yeah.
She doesn't look Middle Eastern.
No, she doesn't look that Middle Eastern. No, not at all. Yeah, she's not from Lesbia. I'm just curious.
She's from Toronto.
Oh!
There you go.
The home of sexual fluidity. Well played there, Paul. Well played. What was the I guess the artistic decision to go that route? Not that we're complaining, not in the slightest bit.
We are the two gay geeks.
We're the two gay geeks, so it's nice to see that kind of representation taking place. I'm just curious. I just thought that was a neat little bonus there. So,
and of course they're in Portland, so
well, that too.
So Charlie is from Toronto. She is also of her parents are Cambodian, so she's Canadian Cambodian, I guess. But she's living in Portland with Rita, who is Hispanic, and Rita is also a lesbian.
Really?
Oh, that's a coincidence.
Wow. Yeah. So just to round it up. No. So basically, when we started, Charlie, and she wasn't named Charlie at the time, was actually a male character. That's the way we pitched it. We were going to have an Asian American character, and when we pitched it to Fanbase, Barbara at Fanbase said, we're trying to be more diverse with our line and be more representative. Is there any reason why we couldn't have a female character in the lead? And Dave brought that question back to me, and I'm like, that's better. There are because this book is it's a lot about gatekeeping. And about sort of like the old guard being very possessive of their work and of their fantasy and their fandom in a way. It actually, you can do more things thematically and it be more meaningful if that character was a woman. Wow. And we also said, okay, well, there's also this girlfriend character. Should we make it a boyfriend? We're like, no, there's no reason we have to change it. So we decided to keep the girlfriend character as a girlfriend character. And then also we wanted to make sure that, it wasn't just a damsel in distress girlfriend. We wanted to give her own arc as well. And so we spent a lot of time talking about Rita and her role, not just in Charlie's story, but in, what's her own story. And so there's this whole fantasy thing going on, but on the side, Rita's wants to set up a food truck in Portland because she's been basically the best chef in someone else's kitchen, and she's fed up with that and wants to do her own thing. And she's like, so that scene you talk about where they go to the farmer's market, she is like, none of my food is here. Like there's all this stuff and experimental like waffle things that people are doing, but like all my grandma's recipes aren't here. So
That's
we
a
decided
perfect thing to do.
so we decided to play with that. And I think, and also Dave had just moved to Portland, and he was missing some of the flavor profiles he liked from living in LA for most of his life. And part of it is based on his fiance. I won't say that she is like a one-to-one adaptation of Dave's fiance, but some of her experiences informed Rita, and Dave, like walking down the street from his new house and discovering this great enclave of food trucks and being like, I kind of want to explore this a bit. I'm like, well, let's put it in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been fun. So it's been great, and we try not to I'm a straight white guy. I try not to overstep my bounds into saying this is the experience, and going into that. But I was like, I can write another human being that has different experiences than me, and has a different perspective, and it made us more thoughtful about character choices. So there's a lot of Charlie's introversion, a lot of my introversion in Charlie, but there's a lot of stuff that I had to, really sort of think about and talk to other people about and say, does this feel authentic? And so that's the route we went. And I'm glad we could do that. And that, it's not the same old protagonist you're used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to have that representation in there.
Mm-hmm.
It was very important to us that, since it was me and Dave writing this, we were like, we should really have, a woman should draw this.
Mm-hmm.
And also having the opportunity to work with Amanda, because we had loved the stuff that she had sent in for Wormwood. And so we're like, it's just sort of serendipity. And I think she was able to correct some of our dumb mistakes too about me. I don't know. I think there was a sense of which we want to get this right, and so she was able to sort of make us not want to be idiots, and we were like, we can't let Amanda down, and so yeah.
Well, it sounds like that by doing this to the character, you're actually taking a story idea and giving it greater maybe social relevance and resonance for the today reader. So
I hope so.
I think that's a great case of serendipity right there.
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody, wow, phenomenal conversation. So for anybody who first. Intertubes, the internets. Where do you have any kind of social media presence?
Are you on the Facebook?
The Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams.
Yes, we're old, so we can say the Facebook.
Yeah. Are you on the Instagrams or the Tumblrs? Any of those places? So that people can see what you guys are working on.
So real quick, I'm on Twitter as Fuzzy Typewriter, all one word. Drives people nuts. But that was the name of our podcast, so I kept it. And you can also find the Margins on Twitter at The Margins Comic.
And Amanda?
I would also say check out the Margins Facebook page. That's a lot of activity there. I'm trying to post more work in progress stuff on there, so I think it's fun to check out. And then for my personal sites, I'm at Dominant Panda on Instagram. And my Tumblr is amandaishighlypredictable.tumblr.com. So both those have a bit of more Margin stuff on there, as well as some of my own work.
Does the Margins? Do they have you have a Facebook?
Yeah,
page
so the
for
Margins
that?
has a Facebook page. Yes.
Yeah, I thought I liked that. It's like, oh my gosh, we have like 7 Twitter accounts and
we're all over
3 or
the
4
place, and then,
Facebook accounts and.
And then you can go to fanbasepress.com and you can pre-order the book right now. It's out on July 23rd. If you pre-order before June 1st, I believe, you get Amanda's going to be doing some original sketches, and we're going to have signed book plates. so me and Dave can feel like part of it too. You don't want us drawing in it, but like we'll write our name, and but mostly you want the sketch, and then Dave's also got a PDF with a short story that he's written, which is sort of a companion piece to the Marty, which you can read before or after it.
Very nice.
Cool. That sounds really cool. There, and we will have a link to that pre-order site on in the show notes, as well as there's a widget on the side of the page that.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
So, well, thank you for being on the show this time.
Fun
This
conversation.
was really great.
Yes.
Very
Thanks, it was a good
fun.
time.
Us.
Hi, I'm Paul Montgomery.
And I'm Amanda Donahue,
We created The Margins, and you're listening to
the two gay geeks.
And here's a few selected birthdays for March 5th through March 11th, 2018. March 5th, Paul Blackthorne. You know,
Arrow.
Arrow.
Yeah, and that
the
magic show.
something files.
Yeah, Dresden.
Dresden Files. There we go.
That's what, yeah. I was really.
It's like, oh my God.
Well, I saw the name, and that's the first thing. Actually, I didn't think Arrow. I was thinking Dresden Files. That's the first one that came to mind because that's where we got introduced to him.
Yeah. Also on March 5th, Penn Jillette.
Con man.
And Jake Lloyd.
Inmate man. Whoops, I'm sorry. Where did that come from?
Yeah. And Momofuku Ando.
Well, I'm so glad you were saying that because I know I would have gotten that wrong.
He was the inventor of instant noodles from Taiwan.
Oh, now I know who to hate. Okay.
Yeah. Also, Matt Lucas, who is not only Nardole.
Oh,
he
my
was
goodness.
Also, what was that?
Well, he was in the what I know him best is from Little Britain.
Yeah, Little Britain. And yes, but he's also Nardole.
He's Nardole, yeah.
Yes. March 6th, Kiri Takanawa, famed opera singer. David Gilmour.
Awesome guitarist of Pink Floyd.
Yeah, and Will Eisner. He was a famed comic book artist, and most famously now for the Eisner Award that is given to comics. He was instrumental in the creation of comics, really, as a
medium?
thing. Yes. Okay. Also on March 6th, Michelangelo, born in 1475.
But he never finished that 17th chapel.
I know.
Darn.
I want to see the 15th and the 16th.
I want to see 1 through 15.
Yeah. Also, good friend of the show, Claire O'Leary. Happy birthday, Claire.
Yes.
March 7th, Willard Scott.
That man will eat anything.
There we go. That's what I was going for. Bryan Cranston, Wanda Sykes, Betty Holberton, and she is most famous for being she was a mathematician, computer engineer, and software engineer, shall we say. She actually worked on the original ENIAC computer back in the 40s and was instrumental in writing Fortran and several other COBOL and a couple of other languages.
Wow.
She was very influential in
and I would dare say that
industry.
the history books for a long time just simply gave her a pass because she was a woman.
I'm sure they did. But
oh, what a shame. Well, we're recognizing her here now.
I saw her on the list, and then I looked her up on Wikipedia, and it was like, wow, she did everything. In fact, the original color of the ENIAC and then the UNIVAC, they were looking at black steel, and she convinced them to go with the gray, which has become the universal computer color.
No kidding.
So, also on March 7th, Maurice Ravel, most known for the
Ravel's Bolero.
But
he was also a
he
phenomenal arranger.
Oh,
I mean,
God,
you look
yes.
at Mussorgsky's pictures at an exhibition, which was written on
for piano.
For piano. And of all the different arrangements,
his is the most famous.
Yeah, Ravel's is the most famous.
The
yes.
orchestral arrangements, that is. March 8th, Aidan Quinn, Sid Charisse.
Oh, legs.
Alan Hale Jr.
Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, the skipper. And Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, also known as C.P.E. Bach, born in 1714.
I mean, it's a lot of people, every time you think Bach, you're either, you're thinking Johann.
JSB, yeah.
But CP Bach just did some amazing music that continues to stand. It stands the test of time.
Yeah, I mean, just very prolific as his father was. So
Yeah.
it's just check out some of CPE Bach's.
And then when you're done, go to
interesting
PDQ.
stuff. Yeah, there we go. March 9th, Oscar Isaac and Amerigo Vespucci.
Vespucci.
Born in 1454. He was the one that discovered South America. Samuel Barber, who created some sublime music.
Amazing music.
And
His Adagio.
yeah.
Oh, my word. There's nothing like it.
He also created the Cleopatra, which opened the
Opened up
the new Met at Lincoln Center. Also on March 9th, a good friend Marge Ryder and Lisa Godot. March 10th, Olivia Wilde, Sharon Stone, Lance Burton.
Oh, I had the pleasure of seeing live in Vegas years ago.
Yeah, and friend of ours, David Hunter. Happy birthday, David. March 11th, Lawrence Welk. Interesting that Lawrence Welk should pop up. It's just with this
music.
This music, yeah. It's
Wonderful.
wonderful. Also on March 11th, Anton Yelchin.
Oh,
who
this one makes me
left
sad.
us just
This
a little
one
too
makes
soon.
me sad because what a tragic accident
Yep.
that would take him, and he was such a talent.
Yep. Also on March 11th, Alex Kingston, who I'm looking at a picture
Looking at a photo of her, oh yeah,
us.
when we took that photo and we shared it, I mean, and all we put on Facebook is, and then this just happened, and the world went mad.
Yeah, it was great. Also, John Barrowman. Interesting that John Barrowman and Alex Kingston on the same day.
I still want to see Professor Sung and Captain Jack in a single story together.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would just, the world would have to end after that because there'd be nothing left to do.
Absolutely. And to top it off on March 11th, Douglas Adams.
And the story must be written by Douglas Adams.
Exactly. And that's it for the birthdays this time.
Hi, this is Barbara Dillon, one of the co-hosts of Fanbase Press's flagship podcast, The Fanbase Weekly. During the Fanbase Weekly podcast, the co-hosts and I discuss the top geek news stories of the week. In each episode, we are joined by special guests from all across the pop culture spectrum to get their take on what's happening in geekdom. Past guests have included Jeffrey Thorne, writer of Leverage and The Librarians, DC All Access's Jason Inman, Debbie Lynn Smith of Chimera Press, Xena Warrior Princess executive producer Stephen L. Sears, Ashley V. Robinson of Geek History Lessons, and many, many more. Join us for an episode of the podcast that celebrates fandoms on a weekly basis. A new episode of the Fanbase Weekly is released every Monday. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or look for the podcast at fanbasepress.com.
Go visit our friends Barbara and Bryant Dillon over at Fanbase Weekly. You can find them at fanbasepress.com. And we're actually going to talk to them next week. So
Yes, very excited about that.
So now, what time is it? Anybody that's ever listened to the show knows what that music means. It's our funky music, funky feedback music. Yeah, funky feedback. There
Funky
we go.
feedback. That's what the segment's not called, the funky feedback?
It's a funky feedback segment.
Okay, just don't say that 10 times faster, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So, starting with, going back to episode 154, got a comment from probably the friend that I've had the longest in all my life, Corey Nelson. She just says, just finished episode 154. Yeah, I'm a little behind. Well, Corey, knowing everything that you listen to, you are
and all
forgiven.
the things that you do, my gosh.
You are forgiven. I mean, if we're possible for anybody to listen to several things simultaneously, that will be you. You'd be listening to a podcast or listen to an
You
audio.
are a
book at the same
project
time.
manager after
Yeah,
all.
you are. Anyway, she says, love hearing all the feedback, and I reminded me while I haven't written in a while. Congrats on the trademark.
Yeah.
Love the show. Keep up the great work.
Thank
and
you.
then she jumps forward, and this is in regards to episode 156. She says, you guys are really cracking me up reading your feedback in episode 156 about the conspiracy theories going around for Rotten Tomatoes having the fix and for Black Panther. And I'm trying to remember what the heck we said. I have no memory of it.
Yeah, it's out of sight, out of mind now.
It's gone now.
It's been said and it's in the ether.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we recorded it, so I don't have to keep it in my head anymore. And she says, Ben, your passion in reading the comments was pure entertaining. Mean that as a big compliment. Both of you work so well together, enjoying catching up with the episodes this week. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
Well, it's nice to know we have a listener.
Yeah, we have at least a listener, one listener.
Well, actually, we have two.
Yeah.
Because Hamish comments on episode 158. Good friend Hamish Downey, and he says, what a great episode. This is a really insightful podcast for any indie filmmakers out there. I found myself nodding my head in agreement a lot. This is very, very close to our experience in making Kotokushi, except that they had 12 days and we had 4.
And he was talking about Prodigy.
Prodigy, exactly.
That was episode 156.
Right. And it's interesting.
Or 158, sorry.
Yeah, 158. He says, it's interesting to hear how important iTunes is for their strategy. I'm curious to watch the film now. Hashtag support indie film. Hashtag support indie artists.
Yes.
And then we got a comment. We ran an article. Horrible Imaginings, they're relocating.
Yeah, they're relocating to Santa Ana.
Yeah, there's
art theater in Santa Ana.
Yeah, there's a really nice little art theater in Santa Ana that they decided to move to. We are at a press release for it, so you can always check it out if you will. But yeah, it's going to start taking place there for the 2018 Film Festival. It's going to be Labor Day weekend. And this looks like a really good venue, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, as awesome as it was seeing them do it in Balboa Park, and I love going there, I think this venue is actually going to be a much better fit because it's one of those art house theaters, but I'm talking the big kind.
Yeah.
That can seat hundreds and hundreds of people. Though that's what it looks like. So I think this is going to be a really good fit for them. Anyway, so we ran that press release, and then a good indie filmmaker that we interviewed a little while ago named Mark Ross from Las Vegas. He says, this is neat. I just learned about this festival. Last year, we shot a short film, and they may be a good fit for them.
Yeah.
Well, hey, go for it, Mark. I think that's an awesome idea.
I told him to go ahead and submit that.
No kidding. And then we ran a review. We ran 2 reviews for the movie Prodigy that we just referred to a little bit ago. And Andrea gets better comments on her reviews than I get on mine. Anyway, Andrea Richoff, who writes for us, she did do a very good review for the movie Prodigy. And Hisani Johnson on Twitter just simply came back with a resounding yes. And then Prodigy Movie on Twitter, they actually quoted her, saying, and she wrote, sci-fi with irresistible characters, tension, and drama that keeps you on the edge of your seat. You know, that's a good soundbite.
Yep.
That's a really good soundbite, Andrea. So it's no wonder that they captured that. And they replied with another winner, this time from Andrea Richoff. Thanks to Andrea for her enthusiastic endorsement.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of comments on Twitter for your review, too.
There was one.
Oh, well, anyway.
There was one.
Oh, well.
And yeah, I did my review, and there was one. And it came from Hawk Vidal, and Hawk simply writes, true.
But no, there was another,
well, maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Maybe a week or so.
When we first ran it. Yeah, exactly.
And then we did a press release for Fan-Based Press, how that plumbs the depths of creativity in The Margins.
Who we just
talked to the creators of The Margins. And The Margins themselves on Twitter say, thank you to the fine folks at TG Geeks for spreading the word about The Margins comic publishing announcement from Fan-Based Press.
Yeah.
Well, we're always happy to do that. And then we got a comment on our website about the press release about how Hamish Downey wrapped filming for his feature film, Kotokushi, in 4 days. And we got a comment from John Downey who says...
I wonder if he's related to Hamish. Maybe it's his brother.
No.
Same last name.
Well, it might be. Might be. I hadn't even considered that, actually. Anyway, he says, thanks for an excellent read. Can't wait to see the finished product. So much hard work and total focus for a whiz around the local area. Best of everything to you and Paul. Sounds like it could be related. But hey, kudos is kudos, and we'll take it.
Exactly. And that's it for our comments this time. If you have a comment or you want to say something about our show, good, bad, or indifferent, or whatever, about the interviews, etc., that we do, anything, whether it's on an article, you can comment a number of places.
Mhm.
Number one, you can comment on the article itself in the comment section at the bottom, on our show at the comment section at the bottom. You can comment on Facebook. You can comment on Twitter. Where else? Any place else and every place else. You can even call us on our
voice line.
listener feedback line, and you can leave us a voicemail, and we will play it on air. 469 TG Geeks. That is 469-844-3357. And remember, please play nice.
You don't need to hear their identification. They're the two gay geeks. They can go about their business. Move along.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because that never gets tiring.
It doesn't get old for me.
Not for you. You're the one operating the mixer.
Yeah, I just love to torment you.
Really?
Yeah.
After 20 some odd years?
Exactly. Well, this time we have a different second segment here. This time we're going
to talk about us.
We're going to talk about us, and
because it's all about us.
Exactly. Well, this is our show, so we can talk about
duh.
anything we dang well please.
But no, actually, this is, I think this is kind of exciting stuff here, because as we've talked about in the past, we're now getting something of a staff.
Yeah, we've got several writers. We have 3 contributor writers, staff writers, that are contributing regularly to tggeeks.com.
Yeah, because let's just face it. I mean, Keith and I have full-time jobs, and
we just
as
can't
much
keep
as
up with everything.
no, and as much as I really enjoyed being able to, cull stories, and put together articles that we could run on our website and talk about, but at the end of the day, I just did not have the mental energy to want to go out and do that. So it's nice to have people who can actually contribute work. And I guess you had this really great idea about some sort of a schedule of things that people can look forward to.
Because humans are creatures of habit, and if you have something regularly, it builds traffic, and then people kind of begin to look at your website regularly, and that's the whole purpose behind this. I realize that we're talking about this on our podcast, but if people don't know, we actually have a website where we do reviews and all kinds of things, and this is to help us reviews and things. Yes, thank you, Chuck. So this is our idea of what we were thinking of doing with the website to drive more traffic, to have a regular audience for the website and increase our numbers. So Monday, we would be releasing our episode as well as anything else. I mean, these are the highlights of things that we want to do for each day, so that a regular thing doesn't preclude
other items can go out. I mean, special press releases, special reviews, things like that.
Whatever.
I mean, those can, and if there's a really hot story about a movie that's coming out, we'll run those things will still be in addition to this. This is sort of like a projected foundation.
Exactly. So Monday is the episode release, and that usually we try to release that early enough for East Coast listeners so that they can listen to it on their commute. And Tuesdays would be kind of a book reviews and more. So that could be book reviews. It could be reviews of DVDs, of things, because Tuesday seems to be the day that books are released, that DVDs, Blu-rays, all kinds of other releases are happening. So we want to do something regularly on that front on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, as we've started recently, is our old classics.
Oh, God bless you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Those are fun. I am so
really
glad
great.
You're doing those.
Yeah. So she's got a bunch of those in the can for us, and it's really great. She has, she's a great writer, Jeannie Cox.
She's an awesome writer.
Now, Thursday, we thought about having it being TV Thursday. So my thoughts were this is maybe we could have as our theme, several different themes for TV Thursday. We have our 3-episode thoughts, meaning somebody has taken a series and watched the first 3 episodes and then given their feedback on the first 3 episodes. Then there would be Thirsty Thursdays, which would be in-depth reviews of stuff that we liked that they watched the whole series. And then the Throw It Out Thursdays, the in-depth reviews of stuff that were not necessarily liked. So it just, these are just thoughts off the top of my head. Friday would be movie reviews and other things. Saturday, now this one is a kind of an interesting thing that got thrown out. And this was kind of our hive mind of, we did a Facebook Messenger kind of conversation around all of these. So we thought Saturday could be Social Saturday, meaning we would do not necessarily reviews unless we've visited some of the geeky, nerdy places around town, but between Atlanta where Jeannie lives and San Diego where Ro lives and Phoenix where Andrea and we live. I mean, there are a ton of geeky, nerdy places.
Well, not just that. I mean, we go down to Southern California frequently, and we've discovered a lot of really nice, nerdy places that are down there.
So it's kind of like going to be a free publicity for different places, whether we visited or not, and especially if we've visited, it would be something that we could talk about. And then Sunday kind of be Spotlight Sunday, and who knows what that means. I haven't figured that one out
No, that's
yet.
just a placeholder.
If you have some idea about, what we've talked about or something that you like or don't like or would like to see regularly on the website, let us know. And certainly if you go ahead.
I was going to say, and especially in regards to the one that you want to do for like Saturday, Geeky Places Promoted. I mean, we got a lot of listeners that are all over the place. If you know of a really geeky place that you just want to talk about, go ahead, write something up. We would be thrilled to run it.
Yeah. Or if you want to talk,
or of a book review.
Something on pop culture, anything.
Yeah.
We're always looking for additional content. So, please contact us through the contact page, and we'll be glad to get back to you and see if it fits in what we are doing.
And the thing is, we are just one enormous community, if you really think about it. So to be able to reach out, I mean, we're a global community.
Exactly.
Based on the numbers that we have for our show, the diverse places that people visit us from, we are a global community.
Yep.
And if there are geeky places that you know of in other countries, anybody that's out there, Hamish, down in Japan, I'm sure there's some really fantastic geeky places there that some of our Japanese listeners or readers would like to know about.
Yeah.
So, or in Australia or in Russia. I mean, we actually have 1 or 2 listeners who are over there too.
Yeah. Or in Ireland.
Claire, I'm sure you must know a wealth of really far out places that you'd like to talk about. Or any place in the States, or again, a book review, something that you read, anything that kind of falls into this, this initial, what would you call it? Initial set of ideas that we want to run for our website.
We'll be glad to take a look at it and see if it fits and what we can do with it.
Yeah, just don't make it Robotech. Yeah, we don't need that kind of heat again.
We don't need that heat again. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening to that. And, any comments that you have, we'd be glad to take your feedback and
absolutely
and look at doing different things. We want to do some different things with the website so that we can be a little bit better at serving the needs of the geeky community.
Oh, well put.
And then, as always, we have our follow-up items. Check out our calendar on the website. If you have a birthday or an event or a con, film festival, let us know. We'll be glad to put it on the calendar and then talk about it. Phoenix Film Festival, April 5th through 15th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be interesting.
Wow.
They've
announced the schedule
on the website. They
Go to
haven't
the
made
website.
An official announcement yet, but not that we know of. but it's some interesting things. So,
and it's just,
and we're sponsors this year.
We're sponsors, and it's like, I think we're going to have to take time off.
I think we are. It's at the Harkins Scottsdale 101. There's going to be over 200, or they had last year, over 250 films and 25,000 attendees over 11 days.
And we're
my gosh.
we will be there. We're going to be live blogging, and if we're lucky, we'll be able to talk to people.
Yeah. And Phoenix Comic Fest coming up. That's the new name. Takes place at the Convention Center on May 24th through the 27th, 2018. Lots and lots of guests. Wonderful, interesting guests. So check it out and get your tickets today. Arizona Opera presents Barber of Seville, Joaquino Rossini's comic masterpiece, where it has
Figaro.
has that piece as well as the famous overture.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of good music. It's a good first-time opera. Check it out in Phoenix, March 9th through the 11th.
I'm really looking forward to it.
And tickets are still available at azopera.org. Check out the 3rd edition of Podcasting for Dummies, written by T. Morris and Chuck Tomasi, good friends. Go to podcastingfordummies.com, and you can see and order a copy of that book yourself.
You can learn about our YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly. And you can also check out their companion podcast that goes along with that at podcastingfordummies.com.
Right.
As everybody knows, we're huge supporters of independent creators. If
you don't know by now.
Exactly. Filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, please support independent creators. Buy their work. Support them. Hey, sometimes just a review is on, whether it's a comic book or a writer or whatever. Those things mean a lot to those people.
They do.
And they really appreciate it. So, and we want to give a special shout out to our friend and expert travel agent, Teresa Corey of Fairy Godmother Travel. She's a small independent travel agent specializing in all things Disney. All things Disney.
But she goes beyond that,
gosh,
too. We did a Norwegian cruise last year, and she took care of that for us.
Yeah, and she has other agents as well. So, and they do Carnival cruises and all kinds of Viking cruises and all kinds of wonderful things.
But if you want to know,
her specialty is Disney.
Yeah, if you want to know all things, if any kind of a Disney vacation, if you have any questions about that, go check Fairy Godmother Travel.
Yeah, and she does a little sprinkle of extra fairy dust on her stuff. And, you ask her about something and she will research it and she'll find the best deal for you. And the best thing, it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah. And she does it purely for the love.
Yeah. And check out the widget on the right-hand side of the page for more info. Tell her Ben and Keith or the Two Gay Geeks or the boys or whoever sent you.
Those guys.
Yes.
Special shout out to Doctor Who Talking Who and Human Arkle. They are both on Twitter, and they both have paper leads that they publish. Doctor Who Talking Who's is the Doctor Who Fancast Guide. The Human Arkles is the Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News, and we give them shout-outs because they republish our content on a very regular basis, and we give them lots of love for it. So you can find Doctor Who Talking Who by going to, or searching at Talking Who, and you can find the Human Arkle on Twitter by searching at Arkle. And he also has a presence of the on Tumblr of the incorrect Star Trek Voyager quotes, and it's only recently that I've come to realize that, holy moly, they really are incorrect because Arkle is making them up.
Well, he makes all of them up.
I know, but this one, apparently he's just going bonkers, and if we weren't short on time, I'd read one or two of them, but thank you, Brian.
Yes.
Anyway, but check that out. We'll have the link for that on our website as well. And we have to give a special shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, because there's some fantastic content there. A lot of my wallpaper for my iPhone I get from them. Just really great stuff there. Great talent. And just some really great people. And you can find them by going to facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. You may have to request to join because it is a private group. But their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves, is a really awesome guy. And so long as you play nice It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, whatever. As long as you play nice, he will allow you access, and just as he has allowed us to post our content there. So thank you very much, Jeremiah.
Yes, thank you, Jeremiah. We want to remind you to occasionally click on our Amazon ads. We got lots of widgets on the side. We have a widget for the margins and Fairy Godmother Travel as well on the right-hand side of the page and at the bottom of the page. So click on those Amazon ads. You can buy lots of stuff. And lastly, check us out on iHeartRadio, and please rate us on iTunes and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And subscribe to iTunes, rate us. You know, we can be found everywhere. So
yeah, we're like a virus.
Yes. Up next week, as we said earlier, we're going to talk to Barbara and Bryant Dillon from Fanbase Press.
I'm looking forward to that.
It's really going to be a
I'm looking forward to that. I took a look at their website. There's some really good content there, so
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk to them.
Yeah. So check it out next week. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TGGeeks.com or TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this episode. We're going to have several links on the page of things that we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, TGGeeks.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-Geeks. That is 469-844-3357 from TG Squared Studios. I'm Keith Lane. I bid you peace. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.